Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Jacobs. This is Pre-K12 Education Talk Radio. And today we're going to talk about AI in Pre-K12, and we're going to focus on social studies a bit with a 30-year-plus educator in social studies named Peter Piccone, and I'm thrilled that he is here today with us. He has started, this is interesting, the AI in AP Social Studies Facebook group. He's been mentioned in Time Magazine. He puts his thought into making education better for his students and his colleagues all the time. And so I'm thrilled Peter is here with us. And Peter, I'll bring you on in just a couple of minutes. We're going to archive the show over at ace-ed.org. That's ace-ed.org. That's the home website of our American Consortium for Equity in Education, and everything we do over there at ace-ed.org is free. The new issue of our journal, Equity and Access, is over there. Just click on the cover and enjoy. Actually, it's a terrific issue, I got to tell you. All right, all of our podcasts are over there. This one will be there too at ace-ed.org. There's all kinds of information about our Excellence in Equity Awards. Check it all out. It's good stuff. We have a good time doing it, and we hope you go there, and we hope you tell your friends, etc. It's a good website. We're proud of what we do. And without further ado, as I like to say, let me bring Peter on. Peter, all the way across the country in California. I'm here in Maine. Where are you today?
Well, I'm in Los Angeles, Larry, just northeast of downtown, a little community called San Marino. Maybe you know it. It's the home of the Huntington Gardens, and maybe 3 miles away from the Rose Bowl, and just a mile or so away from San Gabriel Mission.
Yeah, and a beautiful view of the mountains, I would imagine, right? What a gorgeous day, I hope.
Most days. Most days.
Yeah. Where are you from originally? We were talking about this yesterday. You're from New York, right? Or your dad is, right? I love that story.
The New York accent. I love it. No, my dad's from New York.
Please. My accent's Philadelphia. Okay?
I know. We talked, but I heard a little bit of New York slip in there just for a second when you started.
No, you didn't. You didn't. I love New York. But I'm Philly. Okay, but anyway, go ahead. Talk about your New York side. It's just fun.
Well, my dad was born in the Village on Charleston Street, and I only mention that because the home today is protected for many years. You get to go back and see exactly what it looked like when he was born there. It goes back to that period of time. But family, I got a German side as well, and my mother's German. My dad went back over to Europe after the war, met my mom, stayed there for about 10 years. I was born in 58 in Germany, so was my brother. Then we moved to Texas, and for a short time, we've been in California ever since.
Yeah, good for you, man. That's great. California's great. And I didn't know you were born in Germany. How interesting. Okay, you are an interesting guy. And tell us just real quick before we get into the AI part about San Marino High School. Have you been there the whole time?
I have. I have been. It's over 30 years. I stopped counting at some point. Yeah, I have.
Yeah. What's changed in social studies, Peter? First of all, there's more history every year. Okay, you got to figure that part out. But what's changed over 30 years?
It's a good question. I think in large part what's changed is the call for standards. Certainly, when I first got here, we hadn't really yet entered into the standards movement. The way that I was raised in social studies at school. Just up the road here, teachers pretty much did whatever they wanted to do. So I had a U.S. history teacher who was a great friend, great personal friend, loved him dearly. Still passed away here recently. But in his U.S. history class, he had mastered the Civil War. So that's all we studied. That was the year of the Civil War. I can tell you all about it. So the standards movement changed, one. And then two, of course, tech, the use of tech to advance learning. I'd say those are the two biggest changes.
And what's the big thing in AP? You teach AP. What's the big thing going on in AP Social Studies?
Well, that's a good question. I will share this with you. I had a philosophy. I did not want to teach AP anything before 2015. I viewed it as an exercise in trivial pursuit, a lot of nonsense, to be honest with you, details that really only a certain kind of kid was going to really get excited about.
Exactly.
And then David Coleman came over to AP from Common Core. David Coleman, some people recognize or view as the architect of Common Core. And I had a little insight into that. And I went, oh, my gosh, this is the beginning of the new AP. This is going to get fascinating. And so I signed on. I immediately wanted to teach any one of the AP Social Studies classes, APUSH in particular, because it's kind of the flagship course. And sure enough, that's what has happened. AP Social Studies, all of AP, has changed dramatically since. If you look at the tea leaves, there's no way they're done with it. There's much, much more to come. But the bottom line is far less trivia, much clearer indication of what is going to be on the test, the removal of the mystery, so to speak. I mean, this idea of I got to study everything to do well. They make very clear now what you need to know, what you don't need to know, great resources. And then now, just recently, opening the door to the use of AI, and that just cracked.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that
2 weeks.
But I got to ask you one question, Peter. This is interesting.
Sure.
You know, you just said what you need to know, what you don't need to know in AP Social Studies. Let me ask that question. What do you need to know?
Well, a lot of stuff.
Not you,
still,
the kids. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. A lot of stuff still, but they make it very clear. They put it in a document called the CED. They say, you need to know, and then they spell out the Northwest Ordinance. You need to know the French and Indian War. And they even give you some idea of what you need to know in terms of what they call the key concepts. So really, and I've been speaking about this since 2015, writing about it a lot. My scores, I got great scores. Why? And I don't give homework, and I don't stress the kids out. I don't supersize I don't put my course on steroids, academic steroids. Why? Because they're telling you exactly what you need, and it's very, very clear. You just stay laser focused on what they call their key concepts, and then you see students do really, really well.
They do.
Okay, you leave everything else on the side.
Right, they do, and it's incredible what's going on out there. And now I have to ask you this, and I know you just said you've written a lot about it, etc. You've been mentioned in Time Magazine. Okay, you started, and I want to talk about this, the AI and AP Social Studies Facebook group. Okay, talk about that, and let's segue into AI from that. Okay,
sure.
Where are we going with all this? And let me ask you another question. You know, social studies is under a lot of pressure these days. A lot of pressure, politicalization of it, if I may, etc. Just talk about that for a second and where that's going. Before I get into the AI stuff, I just want your thoughts on that.
Well, yeah, that's a really good question. How do I answer that one? We do live in a polarized society. It does make you wonder if there were cameras in social studies classrooms, in all social studies classrooms. I am sure that half the population, no matter who the teacher is, would get upset about something that has been said. It just be the nature of how it goes. In 2016, pardon me?
It's the nature of the beast of social studies, and I am a social studies teacher. Yeah.
Yeah, seems that way. In 2016, I wrote a blog post for PBS, and I got away with the title, Teaching the Presidential Election in the Age of Hate. And basically what I said is just be transparent, put everything out there. I mean, share everything that you do. If you're going to get hammered, better be hammered about what you're sharing than about what you're not sharing. So that was my approach. And as much as possible, I don't believe in sharing my politics. I don't share my politics.
Right.
That's the one thing. I mean, I just steer a million miles from that. I can argue anything, any side, and sometimes I will. I'll tell the kids, look, you don't know if I believe this or not, but you've all said you believe in this. What do you say to those? And then I'll make the counter argument. And I can do both sides pretty well after 60 some odd years on this planet.
Get those kids thinking, yeah, who's this guy? I think that's great. So now we're into the world of AI, Peter. Okay, has the world changed because of AI? What's going on? How are you using it in your social studies class? Talk about it. AI, go for it.
How has it changed? The surveys that are out, the Walton Family Trust has been running, has done now 2 national K-12 surveys. What they're revealing is approximately 60% of all teachers are using AI for a classroom or school-related purpose. I expect that number to go sky high in the next several months, and certainly in March and April, May, as teachers and students are prepping for the annual AP exam. But right now, it's about 60% with good, healthy percent who are still saying no, I'm not going to. So has it changed? Interesting question. How do you answer that?
Yeah.
The second question is, who's using it, teachers or students? And from the surveys about students, what we're finding is it's only about 30% of students who say they are using. And yet, I find that real difficult to believe. I think students are just afraid to go on record, to be honest with you, especially when a school or an adult is surveying them. What incentive they have good? Let me put it this way: they have good reason to fear that if they were to say they're using ChatGPT, that information somehow could be linked back to them, and then not do them any favors. So I'm not buying the only 30% are using it when I see that in surveys. And that's, if you ask me on a general level, as you did, how is it changing? That's about the best I can do. I can tell you how I'm doing it, but on a bigger scope, that's not the best I got.
Well, let's talk about you. How are you using it? You're an AP Social Studies teacher. Go ahead. How are you using it?
I'm both an AP Social Studies teacher and a regular social
without superpowers.
Teacher.
Yeah.
Superpowers. And so, as a teacher, I use it every single day for a number of different reasons. I'll give you a couple examples in just a second, but probably the single best example, I'll do it right now. Single best example is this. The social studies teacher, we all know that if you really want students to learn, and we do this especially at the end when we get closer to finals or AP exams or that sort of thing, one of the best activities you can do is to get them to see how various things differ. Well, you can also do that throughout the year. And for a teacher to create a chart that shows, ChatGPT calls it a structured table. That's what they call it. To create that, how did the Louisiana Purchase differ from the Northwest Ordinance? How did Jefferson's views differ from Hamilton's? How did Proclamation Act differ from I can't even think, a Monroe Doctrine?
Yeah.
That takes a lot of work for a teacher to do. And what I can do is I just plug that into ChatGPT, and up comes the structured chart. If I see a category that's not there that I want mentioned, like, for example, hey, I want to see a category added, and how did this affect the issue of slavery? How did this affect the Native American? It adds it. If it gives me information in a way that I'm not happy with, like it says the Louisiana Purchase, as a result of it, the U.S. acquired X number of miles, I go, no, I don't want that. I want the territory. Explain it to me in words. Oh, west of, east of, north of, and so on. It'll do that real fast. And these are extraordinarily powerful learning tools. And I can see that this year. My kids here, 1 quarter in, the depth of knowledge is far greater than it's ever been before. There's absolutely no question about it. And
why are you saying, wait, what I don't understand, I'm just playing the devil's advocate here. Okay, if you're doing what you're saying, let's use the Louisiana Purchase on ChatGPT. Okay, are the kids doing that too?
That's a great question as well. You got a lot of good ones today.
I'm hot today. Okay, but the reason I'm asking this is what's important to me. Okay, AI is here to stay. It's kind of like you remember this when the calculator first became part of the world. And every math teacher almost dropped dead that kids won't be able to think anymore. The calculator will do it for them. Well, hello, the whole world uses calculators now. Okay, and we had to make sure the kids understand how to use a calculator. It's the same thing, okay, with AI. It's the birth of AI for the average person, okay? And, this is going to be part and parcel of the world, okay? We have to teach the kids how to use it, all right? So that's why I'm asking that question. How are the kids using it, okay? And how are you using it? It's all the same question, to help those kids understand that this is something they're going to use in their job. I don't care what their job is; they're going to use it. Okay, and that's my real question. How is it all coming together. And I always say, Peter, you'll like this. I always say AI for students is more about the questions than the answers. Okay? We got to learn to use this tool. Okay? It'll give us the answer to whatever we say, but we got to know what to say. Okay? And that's my point of all this. And I'm curious how you feel about what I just said.
As far as the structured charts go right now, I'm producing them for the kids. They go into my slideshows. We look them over. We talk about them. But I'm clearly modeling that for the kids as well. And
Good.
and as we get into the second quarter of the year, I will increasingly simply say to them, hey, I think this is now here. I think you should be comparing these two things. What do you come up with? I'm fortunate enough in the fact that I'm in a school district where from day one we hired somebody to come in, speak to everybody, say embrace ChatGPT, embrace AI. We have a superintendent that is fully supportive of it. We are going to be doing a tech academy here district-wide next week for the next 2 or 3 weeks. I'm going to be leading 4 different sessions on AI. So, I'm at a school where we're moving that agenda forward. But just in terms of structured, I'm doing it now, and then in a very short period of time, I'll be having the kids do it. That's a specific question. Do you want me to go for a broader one?
Anything you want to do? Would you like to speak more broadly on it?
Well, yeah, sure.
Go.
Giving kids class time to use it. I mean, there's a number of different ways that you can go down that path. And there are a number of different companies out there that are producing very, very good and very, very powerful platforms to help kids do that. And so Class Companion just happens to be one of those. And if I could, I'd like to take a moment to explain it to you because I think it's
of course. Go for it.
In the course of my career, I have had many startups approach me because of my mouth, my writing, my presentation, blogging, all of that. And in the sense that, okay, I'll explore your product, and then they send me, a jacket or a Starbucks card or something like that. It's always been that case. And when they've offered more than that, I've never taken it because I always wanted the freedom to just speak freely. Class Companion, I will tell you this, I view it as the ultimate game changer. I've seen nothing like it. And that's comparing it to a lot of names that all teachers know when we talk about platforms. What is Class Companion? It provides students for free and teachers for free. There's no cost, a chance to evaluate, to assess instantly their writing. So a teacher puts up a question onto Class Companion, the student writes the answer, and immediately they get feedback. And as every teacher knows, instant feedback leads to deeper learning. That's powerful. It's magical.
Absolutely.
A whole bunch of different reasons. And that is Class Companion. Kids love it. That's not just my kids. Everybody I talk to, they say, "My goodness gracious."
Where was this?
Seriously. What was that?
They were just saying, why haven't I used this before? Where was this the whole time? This is great.
Right. Of course it's been. Yeah. And so that's a form of AI use, not something that I created, but I will periodically. I mean, I have a block schedule, 110 minutes. So I'll teach for 20 minutes. Okay, here we go. Let's see what you understand. And the AI is it not only gives them the feedback, but in that regard, it also serves like a tutor because it provides information that they need to write that answer better.
Right. It's so amazing what's out there. And did they find you or did you find them, Class Companion?
That's a good question. No, I guess I found them. A friend of mine said, "Hey, have you seen this?" I looked at it. At first,
wow.
Well, no, actually, at first the interface didn't really do it for me, and I thought, this is tough to get through. But for some reason I took that next step, and then I did the wow. Now today they've cleaned up the interface. It looks great, but at first, it was a startup, and it's evolved very, very quickly. A really hardworking, bright, and talented team behind it. And the proof in that pudding is it was just featured in Forbes magazine last week. It got a beautiful, beautiful story. And this from a magazine that rarely, if ever, is going to feature a single platform, program, app, whatever you want to call it. They decided to focus on Class Companion and a lengthy read too. So think others are recognizing the value here.
There is a value, and by the way, it's a writing. I'm up on the website now. Okay, give your students an engaging way to practice at their own pace, make mistakes, learn from them, and be motivated to improve. And we're not talking about an ELA teacher. We're talking about a social studies teacher. Okay?
That's
and I
right.
say this stuff is good for everybody. It's very, very important. Do you see any danger in AI?
Well, sure.
Besides the end of Terminator 3, which you should be concerned about because that was in California. Okay? But go ahead.
The danger is that it is at times not going to be accurate. It's going to, the phrase is hallucinate. It's going to give you a false fact. It will do that, and so you need to double check it. But on the other hand, if you take a room full of let's say, for example, AP US history teachers, take a giant room full of AP US history, and you have them grade up a certain number of papers, they're going to make mistakes too. I'm going to make mistakes, and I think I really know how to assess this stuff pretty well. Pop it through AI, okay, maybe one or two, it's going to miss here or there, but the interesting question is, where are you going to get better results? And that's still, I'd like to see those studies and done, but we're way too early. But for certain, it's going to say that the AI is going to be more accurate more of the time than a teacher or a group of teachers will. So yeah, the biggest thing is just the mistakes and the need for students to double check everything, teachers to double check everything. And then the other thing is too, is the language. I tell my kids over and over again, prompting, pasting is pathetic. Get it through your heads. If you're prompting, pasting, you're pathetic. Well, and it's said with a big smile on my face, but because what they're going to produce then usually it's not going to reflect them. It's not going to reflect their thinking, especially if they're using it for writing purpose. And so what do you have to do? You have to work it through, double check it, make sure it's accurate, and see if you can bring it to your voice. So ChatGPT uses the word iterations. They all do. It's all about the iteration. You put an idea in, it comes out. You put it into a Google Doc or something. You rework it. You put it back in again. You see what it says. Back and forth, back and forth. My Time Magazine article, the thing I told them that they put right up there in the first paragraph was, it's like having a personal assistant, and you're working with your assistant.
Wow.
That's really, yeah.
Yeah, it's really just amazing. I want to ask you a question. Okay, you have no control over this question, but I'm going to ask it because this is always a pet peeve of mine. Okay, and this is just take this generically, everybody. The education colleges, education schools are always way behind on this stuff, way behind. But we know that AI is here to stay. All right, should the education schools, colleges of education, be training their students that the future of education is going to be AI-oriented and learn how to use it, etc. Have you heard of anywhere that somebody's actually doing that in higher education for teachers? You have no control over that. I'm just curious what your thought is.
Interesting. The second part, I don't know about.
All my questions are interesting today. I'm brilliant today. This is my job. This is incredible. I ate my Wheaties. Yeah.
They are interesting, but it's also just my way of saying I got to pause for a second to figure out how to answer it. So that's really all I'm doing.
So my questions aren't that good. Okay, I'll move on.
Yeah, I knew you'd go there with that.
Yeah,
I knew you.
Yeah.
That's not my point at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Of course, the schools of education should be doing that, and probably, if for only one reason. We have a very prominent educator here in Southern California named Holly Clark. She speaks at conferences and she writes books and has quite the celebrity status. But she wrote something really beautiful the other day. I wish I had it here in front of me. I didn't think we'd go down that path.
Yeah.
But it said something to the effect that if you're going to get behind this for only one reason, get behind it because it's the great leveler. Because it gives kids who have fallen behind for whatever reason, a chance to substantially and significantly increase their learning in the sense that it's the private tutor. If they don't understand a concept, all they've got to do is say, explain this to me in terms that I can understand, and now you can even ask it to explain it to you in foreign language. I don't understand. Explain this to me in Spanish. It has capacity and capability to do that for that reason alone, narrowing the education gap, I think I want to get behind something like that.
It's all about equity, isn't it? It's all about equity, giving every kid what they need. It's all. If we do that, we're going to be in great shape. And that's a great that there is a great example. Thank you, Holly Clark, and thank you for paraphrasing her. Okay, because that's a great example. Okay, of how we have to look at this. AI is not the enemy, and believe me, a lot of teachers think it is. Okay, it is not. Okay, it's something the kids are going to have forever. All right, and it's going to get better and better and better. Think of the calculator. All right, and we have to make sure that we use it properly, like you're doing, Peter. Okay, to show them, as you said, you're creating examples by using it this way in the first quarter, by creating your charts. Okay, they're going to use it that way in the future, and believe me, they're going to teach you how to use it. Okay, by the fourth quarter. Okay, these kids are so incredibly smart these days. I have to ask you something as we wind down here, Peter. Okay, you asked me this, and I love this, history teaching. You have a unique approach to teaching historical events, as you wrote me, like the French and Indian War, using ChatGPT. Talk to me about that. Get specific into history teaching and AI.
Sure. Simulations. All social studies teachers know that there's a value in simulations, giving students an opportunity to take on a role and to think in the perspective of that role. So for years, I would have my students do a talk show for the French and Indian War, a talk show. Somebody would be the king of England, somebody would be the king of France, someone would represent one Native American tribe that allied with the French, another with the British, a Canadian fur trapper, and a settler that had crossed the Appalachians into the Ohio Valley. And they're all supposed to speak from their own perspective. Well, so how do you do that? How do you teach kids to do a talk show? And it always took a lot of time, and it was always a hit and miss. I mean, maybe the host was doing a really good job and everybody else was falling flat. So with ChatGPT, there's two variations. You know, the one is just use AI to help you prepare for the role, and that works pretty well. Hey, host, you don't have to create the introductory script from scratch. Work with the bot to create the introductory script. The other thing to do is I just ran it all the way through. Said, hey, ChatGPT, you create for me the script, the entire thing from front to finish, and then the students take on the role of actors. Both approaches worked really, really well, and the learning that took place, again, and the energy in the room and the camaraderie. If I have, do I have 2 minutes to share one additional story with you?
Absolutely, go ahead. You have plenty of time.
Okay. This I love this one. This just happened yesterday. There's a technique called the fishbowl strategy, outer circle, inner circle. It's all designed to encourage discussion. And again, year in, year out, it's always a hit and miss. And sometimes it has some energy, and oftentimes it doesn't. Well, we did one in my regular government class just yesterday. I had assigned them a topic, a proposed California ballot initiative, and they broke the class into 3 groups, and each was going to go into that inner circle to have a little discussion. And I told them, you guys can use ChatGPT to help you get ready for this. And I gave them some sample word stems and so on and so on. The beautiful thing was everybody rose up. Everybody participated. But the best part of all was I had 2 students who really struggle with the English language, both who used ChatGPT and both who decided on their own. They weren't just going to read from the script. They were going to own it. They were going to make it their own. And when this whole thing was over, I asked, hey, guys, who really stood out? And everybody said those 2 kids. It built camaraderie. It built camaraderie because everybody felt that they had learned from each other and were more or less on equal footing. It wasn't as if somebody had been left a million miles behind.
That's so important. And let me ask you a question based on what you just said. What are the demographics of a typical AP history class in San Marino? And you just said, and I love this, that 2 kids have trouble with English, and yet they're in the AP class. I love those kids. Okay? Talk about the demographics and how it's working demographically Okay, I'm sure you have plenty of kids. Well, I don't know this. Okay, who maybe are Latino, maybe they're from countries obviously where they don't speak English. It's not their first language. A lot of nuances in there, etc. All right, you must be a wonderful teacher, and to get these kids so engaged. But I'm curious. Okay, what are the demos of the kids you're teaching? People may have a picture of San Marino being all the children of the motion picture directors and movie stars. Okay, talk about San Marino.
San Marino is a high-performing school, and it is a community located in a sea of wealth. The homes are very, very expensive. But the question here is, historically, to a large extent, at our high school, we had an admission door to AP that wasn't very widely opened. Basically, we were taking the best of the best, and then we had some really great scores. But we only took 30, 60 kids out of whatever number we had. Mm-hmm. That just went against my grain, and so I have fought and fought successfully to just slam open wide the door of admission to AP Social Studies. So in the World History class, my U.S. History class, the Gov class, the Econ class. We take in just about anybody who wants to apply, and maybe on a rare occasion we'll say, look, this might just not be in your best interest. Can we show you a different path? But I would take in every single kid. And so what do I have? Well, the community is predominantly Chinese. I should say Asian at this point, not Chinese. And so a good percentage will be Asian. But far greater number of other groups are now in the class. And certainly a fair share number of kids who historically would never have been allowed into the class and who do struggle with the language, do struggle with the reading. But I want, my opinion is if they want the experience, if they want to see what this is all about, let them. And I do believe the College Board has created, by the way they structure their courses and so on, they have created courses. If you follow their CED, it will work for a lot of kids. It will work for a lot. It is not designed for the elite. It's designed for everybody. The elite can run with it, but it's also not. It's also designed not to leave those that don't fall into that category from feeling as if they have to fall way behind and have accomplished nothing. Everybody's entitled to learning and feeling like they learned.
Well, you got that right. That was great, by the way. Great answer. I love that answer. And the proof of the pudding is what you're saying. We have to use AI to engage kids. Everywhere across the country, it's going to help teachers. It's going to help kids. And that's the bottom line. And Peter, you prove it every day with what you're doing. And by the way, has this spread through San Marino High School? Okay, are they following the leader here, Mr. Picone?
Tough question. When you're used to being at the top, high performing schools are slow. They're not usually the early adopters. Not usually. So throwing my colleagues under a bus. Eyes are wide open at this particular moment. Eyes are wide open, and leadership at the top of the district is certainly encouraging that not only are eyes opened wide, but that steps be taken. And so by this time next year, I do expect way more teachers to be using it and to be owning up to using it. Where they're actually going to give their kids a chance to use it.
Good line.
That's another question. Yeah.
It's true. Okay, and by next year it's going to be that much better. Well, class companion, you started this is okay. 2 minutes later, they changed it. Look how good it is now, and it's the same thing. Okay, it's all just going to get better. You know how tech works; it gets better and better and better and better quickly. Okay, it's just amazing, Peter. I love talking to you. You're just so much fun to talk to. Thank you.
I enjoyed chatting with you too, Larry. Thank you for this opportunity.
Good man. Keep it up, pal. And by the way, I just got to say this. Peter's been teaching for 30 years. Look at the ideas that are still flowing. Look at the changes. I mean, a lot of people go through burnout, man. Look at what you're still doing. That's to be congratulated. I mean it. Okay? Nice. Have a good one, Peter. You're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Peter Picone, everybody, from San Marino High School. He's got this Facebook group. Let me just look at this here. It's called, I just want to make sure I got it right, AI and AP Social Studies Facebook group. Okay? Learn how to use it. And you know I love talking about social studies. We'll archive at ace-ed.org, where everything we do just happens to be, and it is all free. Okay, so good poem there. Check it all out. I'm Larry Jacobs. Thanks for listening.